Hello, welcome to People in Perspective. My name is John Fritsch, and joining me today is Keith Sbiral, Assistant Director of the Village of Brookfield. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, what exactly do you do as Assistant Director of Brookfield?
Well, let me start off by saying I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to come over.
Thank you.
As Assistant Village Manager, I head up the Building and Planning Department, and I head up the Finance Department. There's a Finance Director that works for me. And I have various other roles in the Village of Brookfield, including the Information Technology Department. So the key role I have is the Building and Planning Director, where I head up economic development and building and planning roles.
So how did you get to that job?
Well, I started out, I got my master's degree in urban and regional planning, and worked for a couple different villages in Illinois as a planner, urban planner, doing development review and economic development as well as historic preservation work. And then I came to Brookfield as the Assistant Village Manager and broadened my role a little bit. But that's why the key areas of my job are still economic development.
Okay, now what are the major projects that you're currently working on with the Village of Brookfield?
Well, probably one of the biggest projects that we work on and have been working on an ongoing basis since I started with the village in 2006 is the implementation of the 2020 Master Plan. That plan was developed with residents, consultants, staff members, and appointed and elected officials back in 2004. And the Board of Trustees adopted that plan as a blueprint for how economic development should take place into the future. Obviously in 2004, 2020 was a lot further away than it is today. But as we look at 2020, only 8 years away, we have a lot to do to implement that 2020 master plan. So that's what a lot of my everyday job is.
So what has been done with the 2020 master plan so far?
Probably one of the biggest accomplishments, there was a series of goals in the master plan. The master plan is available on our website at www.brookfieldil.gov. And probably one of the biggest accomplishments, like I said, was the adoption of the Ogden Avenue and Congress Park TIF areas, TIF districts, tax increment finance districts. Those are a tool that allow the village to use tax funding to encourage development in those areas. And again, the plan really focused on Ogden Avenue as a key place to work on economic development.
Okay. So what do you think we need to accomplish still for that?
There's several things the village still needs to focus on. When the economy turned south in 2008, there was a lot of economic development that was right on the cusp of happening. Of course, property values decreased, and a lot of potential economic development came to a standstill. We need to develop some of our key development sites, such as the former Lucas Tire property, the former Moose Hall property, all along Ogden Avenue, and really get some good economic development opportunities coming into the village. That being said, one of the key parts of that is the codification of our village code and working with developers on an ongoing basis to make sure that they're welcome in the village.
Okay. So how's budgeting been for the 2020 plan? Is there any shortcomings on that?
Well, the village of Brookfield has been fortunate over the past 6 or 7 years to have a balanced budget for the village as a whole. How much money gets put directly towards economic development and the implementation of the 2020 master plan, it depends year to year, but the creation and adoption of the TIF districts has helped have a pool of money available for projects that have to do with the master plan.
So that was for a typical day for you as your job?
Well, every day is different, that's for sure. A typical day for me this year a lot of it has been focused on new municipal software that the village has purchased at the end of last year, and the implementation of that software package for village operations. So we've been working a lot on that, dealing with resident concerns, talking to developers, making sure that the budget's on track. All of those things kind of fold into every day that I'm at work. So every day is a little bit different.
What have you done for other villages and towns?
I started my career for the village of Barrington, and when I worked there, I worked mainly in historic preservation. So worked with an architectural review board in a historic district in preserving historic buildings in that town. In Downers Grove, I worked primarily in economic development planning.
Okay. And what have you done for the 2020 plan exactly?
I was instrumental and led the project to adopt the 2 TIF districts in the village and to keep the Board of Trustees apprised on a year-to-year basis as far as what goals have been accomplished in the 2020 master plan. So that process of getting the TIF adopted on a day-to-day basis, managing inquiries from developers and putting together a plan to know what we need to do next in order to make sure that those development sites are successful are all things that I've done dealing with the plan.
And how do you work with the Board of Trustees in this?
The Board of Trustees are integral in this. They meet twice a month, and they work hand in hand with us as staff to make sure that their vision is being put forward in the plan. The plan itself is a great roadmap and a great blueprint for where the village as a whole should go. But the Board of Trustees, any given board that's elected, can have slightly differing opinions on how we get to those final goals. So their input is valuable on a monthly basis to make sure that we're heading in the direction that they want to head in the way that they want to get there.
What do you think should have been done differently with the 2020 plan if we should have done something a while back that we did not do now?
Well, I think there's a couple things that we're missing the boat on. I think that, it's not necessarily a huge negative, but I think that looking now in 2012 and 2013, we really need to consider updating this plan and looking at where we are. The plan itself hasn't changed since 2004. It's time to take a look at it. I think that when you do that, one of the important aspects is to make sure that we educate the residents and the public of what the plan is. I think that was the one thing that, in my 7 years here, folks weren't explained what that plan was and that it was a blueprint and it wasn't something that was, actually going to happen verbatim as the plan says. So I think that public education and getting as many residents involved as possible, getting students involved, getting seniors involved, and getting everyone involved in the working of that plan is important.
Okay. Thank you for joining me. I'm John Fritsch, and thanks for watching.